Welcome to Inside Sim Racing. I'm Shaun Cole with my good buddy,
Darin Gangi.
and today we're here checking out the T500 RS brake mod by Basher Boards. And we actually talked about this on the show not that long ago, but before we even got to testing it, he sent us V2. They're not calling it V2, but it was definitely a different version of the brake mod.
Yeah, the stock, the original one that he got was just like a bushing
Right.
kit from trucks from a skateboard.
Right.
But this, I think he actually had manufactured to do the job, same size basically. But so now the T500 pedals, which look a little different here because we got them in this nice human racing case.
Speaking of mod.
Yep, came with a brake mod, or it's called a stiff brake mod, but it had a spring with it, and it just wasn't right.
It was scratchy.
It was scratchy, and we ended up taking the spring out and just using the foam.
Right.
And that was okay, but it just wasn't much.
It wasn't heavy duty enough, really.
So this mod is basically similar to like what the Nixon guy did on the G27, but just with bushings now instead of having an additional spring. Actually, originally he was just that bushing,
Right.
or the urethane or whatever it was. So basically, it's trying to accomplish the same thing by giving you more of a brake pedal.
Yeah, which is kind of mimicking a load cell feeling. I mean, it's instead of having that distance memory that we've talked about countless times on the show, trying to judge distance with my foot. I mean, just imagine closing your eyes and it's like, what's halfway? Versus adding pressure to the equation, where instead of thinking so much about distance, you're thinking about how much force. And for
You're
me,
not even thinking about it. It's muscle memory.
that's the thing.
Versus positional memory. You're having to remember how far to push every time versus your legs and your muscles knowing how hard to push.
You don't have to think about that.
No.
I mean, the distance you have to consciously think about. The other is just more reaction.
All you're thinking about is making your braking points then. So the Basher T500 mod is made up of several parts. It comes with 4 different bushings. 2 of them are 60 durometer, that is the stiffness of the bushing, and the other 2 are a bit harder at a 70 durometer. So the purple is the 70 durometer, and the orange or red is the 60 durometer.
And you can feel the difference.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
And so if you want, you can mix and match. So you can put, which is what we've got in there now,
That's what I did.
a mix of the 60 and the 70, or you can go 2 60s or 2 70s, or, So there's basically, 4 different progressions you can go with? No, 5, 6, because you could go with 1 of each, plus he gives you this piece of foam that acts as like a placeholder.
Well, and that's when we covered this before, we tried to use one, and we didn't know which way to put it in. This sort of allows you to use it the way it was supposed to be used. So it's still going to squish the donut shape direction.
So it also comes with this piece of foam that we mentioned and a retaining plate that basically screws right in over the bushings.
Yeah.
And has them stay in place. And then you also need the original T500 stiff brake mod for it all to be housed in.
Yeah, just gut their spring and cushioning that was there before.
Yep.
Now the installation is really simple. As you mentioned, you use that original cut from the Thrustmaster brake mod, and then you're going to insert your choice of 1, 2, or whatever variation of bumpers. And we played around with different combinations, and I'd suggest doing the same thing. It comes with all of them.
And you know what? Your mileage may vary. Depending on your size, your weight. You may like talking to John Gage, by the way. By the way, let's back up a little bit. I'd like to thank John Gage at Basher Boards for, first of all, creating this cool mod and all the other cool mods he's created for Fanatic gear and shifters and all that. And just being such a cool guy. I've talked to him quite a bit. But anyway, he goes with the full stiff.
Right.
And that's the way he likes it.
Okay.
But, and he said his friend likes the full soft.
Right.
So it's really going to depend on your size. Do you run with shoes? Do you run with
socks?
socks?
Yeah.
So mileage may vary. And that's
Absolutely.
one thing that's cool about this mod is that you have the variety.
Yeah,
We
absolutely.
say how much it is. We say that later, right?
We get to that.
Okay.
But then once you've decided, and the cool thing is that retaining clip goes in, which is 2 of the stock screws from the Thrustmaster heavy duty brake mod. It's that easy to take it out and test a different combination.
Yep.
So you can play around quite a bit. You don't have to open everything up to make the change. That's the other thing we should mention. And that's pretty much it as far as the install. I mean, it was very straightforward. It took just minutes, and even pulling them out and putting in a new combination only took a couple more minutes. So very easy to do.
One thing to keep in mind, though, every time now, since this isn't the stock pedals, and it's just the case with Thrustmasters in general, you have to calibrate the full throw of the brake every time you boot up the PS3 or the PC. Now, this will work, by the way, on the PS3 or the PC. They don't know it's in there, you know, the system.
Right. Well,
The
it
throw-
thinks it's looking for this much movement. That's the stock amount of movement for a Thrustmaster brake.
Right. But even on the PS3, it doesn't, you know, like on Gran Turismo, we thought there was a bug in Gran Turismo, and that's not the case. You have to calibrate the full throw of the pedal.
Right.
So just always keep that in mind if you do get this mod, and if you don't read the instructions that remind you right here on the bottom to do that.
And now we're going to get to what Darin asked about earlier, and that's the pricing. So these are very inexpensive. You're looking at $16 shipped anywhere in the US. You're looking at $21 shipped anywhere in the world, outside of the US, I should say.
And that's not much more than the cost of these things. I mean, yeah, you can go to your local skate shop and you can get something. It's not going to come with the cool retaining bracket, which actually I think he's changed again to be metal.
Yeah.
But, you know, I'd support John. I mean, this is a cool little mod.
Well, and if you go to a skate shop and look for there are endless amounts of bushings. So you could spend a lot of money trying to figure out a different combination. And he actually acknowledges that at his website. So it's not like he thinks he invented the rocket here.
Yep.
He's just making it easy on you
Yep.
and at a pretty fair price.
Yep. He asks for 10 to 15 days lead time to get your unit after ordering, and they can be ordered directly from his website at basherboards.com. So that's all the box cover stuff. So we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to tell you what we thought about it, pros, cons, and rev scale, right after this. GT Chassis Racing Rigs provided by Human Racing. Go to humanracing.co.th.
Welcome back to our review of the T500 RS brake mod by Basher Boards. And now let's get right back to
Call it the Basher Brake Mod.
Basher brake mod. I like that. A little easier off the tongue as well.
T500 Basher Brake Mod.
So you know us, the best way for us to really tell you about it is to go into the pros and cons. I mean, that tells you the important things. So
Then the rev scale.
that's true. Rev scale gets very important as well. So the first thing that I want to talk about is it's a very extremely cheap mod. Cheap, inexpensive is a better word. So that is a pro. I mean, when we tested the T500 brakes, we immediately pegged the brake pedal as something that needed help.
Yep.
So for $16, you're helping that brake pedal.
And, you know, Shaun said cheap, but it's not cheap as in cheap quality. This is
Right.
a high quality mod. I mean, these are nice bushings and a nice little piece of retaining.
Yeah.
You know, the retaining bracket is really nice too.
Yeah.
Next pros, adds more precision to your braking. Actually, next two pros, adds more precision to your braking, and it allows you to use muscle memory versus the positional memory, which is just huge when finding that threshold when it comes to braking. Whether on oval, you know, when you have to brake, and especially on road courses, it can shave seconds off your lap times.
Absolutely. Another pro is just the feeling of the brake. I mean, think about any car you've gotten in. A brake pedal has some oomph to it. It's not like the gas pedal. And now it feels like that. It feels more like a real pedal.
Yep.
Another pro for me, and this one is directly to me, it made me faster. So any situation, any track situation that I was braking, I was going to brake more consistently, be able to go deeper into braking, and that means lap time.
Yeah, and I honestly didn't do any serious racing with it. Shaun did, but I did drive it, and I agree with that 100%. It much better than stock on the T500. I wouldn't say as good as, you know, say a load cell or the hydraulic pedal you were running on there, but definitely a huge step up for sure. And the last, easy to install, like Shaun said, minutes. You know, as long as you have that brake, you know, as long as you didn't throw away your stiff brake mod retaining plate, you're in big trouble if you did. It's really easy to install. So I think that's going to take us to the cons. And the first one being there's no real progression. So the progression starts right when you push on the pedal. You know, where like the Nixa mod for the G27, there's the spring, the normal spring tension, and then you hit the bumper.
Right.
So this doesn't give you the progression, but it gives you the stiff brake.
Absolutely. Another con, and this isn't for everybody, but it does reduce the travel of your brake pedal. So for those who wanted the full travel, it's going to change that. For me, that's not a big deal. I mean, I've always been a short throw brake kind of guy anyway, so that's cool.
Yeah, and I agree with that 100%. And I don't think there's any other cons for this thing, is there?
No, I mean, at that price, simplicity and how much it helps the pedals, there's not a lot to hit it with.
So, rev scale?
Rev scale, for me, I would give this a 10 out of 10. Easily.
Maybe a 9.
9?
Well, because of it's not, you know, like the Nixum I would give a 10 because you got that progression.
Right.
Where this you just don't. I'd say a 9, a solid 9 for sure.
Yeah, there is a little room for improvement there.
There is, exactly. So, great ingenuity. I mean, awesome that he came up with this. Great job, John. Final thoughts. This is a must-have if you're a T500 owner. This could, in my opinion, I think it's good enough to stop you from buying a separate set of pedals for now. Get it, check it out. 16 bucks if you're in the States, what, 21 abroad. So get it, check it out. I mean, it's worth the price of admission for sure.
Yeah.
It's gonna make you faster over the stock setup.
Yeah.
Now, is it gonna make you faster over a set of, you know, high-end pedals or no, probably not. You know, maybe even equal though, I would say.
Yeah, maybe not as luxurious, but maybe equal in performance. My final thoughts, you said it perfectly. This took the pedal set from the T500, which we knocked, and honestly, same thing the G27 had a problem with. I mean, we knocked it just as heavily in the same department. And it took this pedal set and meant that I don't have to run out and buy another one.
Yeah, and you don't have to run separate USBs.
Yeah.
And you can run it on the PS3 with a nice, solid brake.
That's a pro.
Yeah.
So, yeah, so you pretty much covered everything there in that. And then beyond that, it made me faster. So comparing it to stock, I mean, no brainer. It was more performance and faster on the track.
So I think that's going to wrap things up. Again, you can go to basherboards.com to order your set today. Tell them the guys at Inside Sim Racing sent you. And again, highly recommended. Must have, I'd say, if you have a T500. At that price, it's worth it. So, thanks. And again, 16 bucks if you're here in the States, 21 abroad. What was it, 15 days approximately?
Yeah,
lead
10
time?
to 15 days.
So 3 weeks and you got yourself a mod for the T500. And,
very cool.
You know, ties it all up into one unit. So.
You know, another thing we should mention, we're going to have a forum thread for this review of this show. If you've got this mod, get in there, tell people what you think. Or if you're a T500 owner, go in there and tell us what you think about your pedals and what this might be able to do for you. But let's get some discussion going about it at our forum.
Yeah, or at Facebook too. So you can like us on Facebook, and then we always post our new shows on Facebook and Twitter, so you can converse with us about it there too. So that's going to wrap things up. For Shaun Cole, I'm Darin Gangi. We'll see you guys next time.